So, I'm not necessarily a hater of any drug anymore. Because I remember when I used to be a marijuana head, I was like, oh, everyone else is such a bad, horrible person, even though I'd like use alcohol sometimes. It really does suck. It's a really shitty drug. I mean, really, it's like the worst drug ever. Sometimes it makes you wonder why they allow it legal. Probably the only thing, because you can't really get anything too good out of it, so you really don't become too addicted to it. But they have an agenda of being anti-opiate. They've switched from anti-alcohol to anti-LSD to anti-marijuana to anti-opiate, and they do this. The empire does this to sustain its cash flow. The empire has to bring in about 70% of the income from all of its slaves, from all of its vassal states, because it runs so inefficiently. It brings you think you pay 13% tax, but you don't. You pay taxes in so many ways. Every year you see the price of the food goes up 50 cents. That's called a tax. That's a permanent tax on every single item you buy that has increased the price frickin' sometimes 50%, because a dollar product might now be $1.50 at its store. It kind of depends on where you live. The prices fluctuate, but generally they fluctuate upwards, and that's how it happens. That's called devaluation of the dollar. So you have that happening, and that's happening on so many levels. I'm telling you, you're paying like 70% of your income to the empire. It's a very unsustainable system that they run the empire on, because it's built upon greed and death and slavery. So that's how it grows. That it makes it healthy to do that. It makes it a living, breathing system that it has the workers for it. Look at ants. They have massive colonies, and they seem to be pretty sustainable. Apparently they survive floods too. So how do they work, right? I'm not saying you have to be an ant. I'm not saying you are an ant. I'm showing you the different workings of the ecosystem, and the humans play roles in that. Each of the humans seems to have different skill sets and different roles. So they each play like a different skill set into this overall scheme. But what I am saying is that they act a way like that kind of ish. We actually don't know how ants act, so we can't fully compare them, because they once claimed things like insects have no brains, but insects do something. They've got some memory or something. Something happens there. But then they even went back on that. So it's kind of like the ants working together, and the queen just kills anyone. The queen just kills anyone who gets out of hand. Like, they're gone. Like, the queen doesn't need to kill anyone, because the killer ants will kill the ones close to the queen. Any of them. It's like a hive mind almost. And that's kind of the way the empire works. It has to have the different components to fuel the system, and of course the energy, the beating heart. The workers are that, but they are stealing, like, I was saying 50%, but I really think, the more you look into it, the more you see that they actually are paying more into it. Anyways, so the opium war is just one way of that 70%. They're robbing you. They go from the alcohol to the LSD to the anti-marijuana to the anti-opiate, and they use the drugs to enslave the globe, entire populations, not just you and and junkies, they want to teach you to hate. Potheads and junkies and alcoholics aren't like bad people. They're just using substances that were created on Earth. And alcohol is like the least created on Earth substance. The other stuff kind of just comes up naturally. So it's the least furthest from what the gods initially provided us. So that, of anything, shouldn't be legal. And I understand that's a pothead's argument, but all drugs, all substances should be legal. Even if you're diabetic, your diabetic medicine should be legal. You're paying crazy prices for your diabetic medication, and I'm sure for every other medication too. That was just crazy to see the prices of strips and machines and obviously medications. You know, all this stuff should be available way cheaper, but they're enslaving you. And it's like an American thing only too. Like, you are the heartbeat of the empire. They don't call it the empire for nothing, because it's like all veins lead to the heart. All roads lead to USA. So that's part of that system. They want you to hate the other people in the system and think that you're better than them in some way. And when in reality, you're just promoting your own enslavement. Like, I was just talking with someone who said, well, hey, at least I'm not a junkie in the street. And it's like, well, like, yeah, but then he said, I use alcohol. And it's like, well, alcoholics used to shoot cops, so they can't make that illegal. They're two violent people. You can enslave the opioid addict easily. They're already just like passed out and shit. You can enslave a normal person easy, because they're kind of like an opiate addict. Just, they're not on opiates. Well, I guess it depends on the person and their bloodlines and stuff and culture. But generally, apparently you can, because they can enslave everyone. So the opioid enslavement stuff, it's just another trick. It's another little one of their plans. It's a drug that no one talks about and no one's honest about. But it's used to genocide the Middle Easterners. They use it as an excuse. See, that's not the real excuse. They're like anti-human. But one of their excuses, because it would just be like, oh, they're anti-human. If you just seen them killing humans all the time, they'd be like, oh, they're anti-human. But they have to give you these ideas like, oh, we're there to steal drugs, and we're there to get the drugs for ourselves. We're there to steal oil and get oil for ourselves. Wink, wink. Whoever ourselves is, I don't think it's like this nation. Sometimes this nation goes low on that stuff, and they burnt down the opium fields over there. It was about going over there to burn down their fields to grow then open fields in UK, so they would have all the profit. They did the same thing in Jamaica and Africa. They went there, made weed illegal, and it's like everyone thinks that's all there is in Africa. So it must be like, it must really be, because they apparently black people apparently have good weed in Africa. So you just think that, I've heard it so much, like, Bob Marley obviously had access to a lot of weed. And so then I heard the black people say it as well. And then they said the empire came in and made it illegal. So what they've done is they go worldwide and they make things illegal so they can profit off war on that, and then use that to sneak into and invade nations' infrastructures and mines. And then in the media, of course, that's how they get inside your mind generally. And then they have hold up, I gotta get a drink. Okay, so then they go to like those nations, and they make it out, they make it illegal, and then they make it legal in their nation first, and they're profiting off of it. I heard them talking about the Dandus were in Africa saying that this happened. This sounds about right, because which black politician is calling to make weed illegal? That's like a crony working for the government. And they're right, it grows there naturally, apparently. And supposedly opium grows naturally in the Middle East. The different soils of the different lands grow different versions of things. The different conditions in the different areas of the world cultivate things differently. Just like if you plant a plant and you give it less light than another plant, it's going to grow differently. If you plant a plant, give it proper nutrients, first plant a plant in the soil that you've already used 2-3 times before and might be leached of nutrients, or you ran a lot of water through it, then it might grow differently than a plant not raised directly under the light with some proper soil and like some organic, a little bit of organic nutrients sprayed on it. Don't spray too much inorganics, because then you're gonna salt the earth, because it's not natural. So, but that might happen eventually anyways. But when you do that, you're going to get 2 different plants. So what happens is the different areas of the world grow different things, because it's different conditions. So opiates supposedly grow really good in those locations. So that's where the opiates are. And then you have probably, there's tea in China once, where they had wars over tea. Man, these roads are, like, everyone out here has a 4-wheel vehicle, like those SUVs. You guys ever wonder why the soccer moms got big SUVs? It's because the roads are like death. It's like driving off-road. Like pretty much a year after you pave a road, it's like driving off-road. Too bad no one ever said anything about that. But anyways, so they had the tea wars there. Hopefully you guys can hear me, or it's off-road driving down here. I know it's getting hard for me to hear. So you have the tea wars that went on, or there was issues with tea behind the scene. I don't know if they all called the tea wars, but it's the way I see it, because it looks like there's other stuff. Now there's like 7 reasons to do things for it, you don't do it. So it's not just like to take oil. To take the oil in the Middle East is just about you use that much oil to go take the oil. The military, you think one of those giant warships moves on its own? That probably takes what, like 70 million barrels of gas each time you start it up. Hit full speed ahead one time, and you probably just spent like $20 billion in gas. It takes a lot of oil to make that. And everything's made with oil too. Everything's made with petroleum. So you have the the tires, the parts inside the vehicles, the equipment that people wear. Like, I looked at it can be made for a lot of stuff. I mean, you can make stuff from different things, and it's used in a lot of stuff apparently. So it costs more oil than it does to get out there. So when you look at all the things going on, other than land, you can see land theft. You can see the drug war is fully designed to, just like in the past, it's designed to shut it down and then sell it for a higher cost somewhere else. It's just they're the world's largest criminal syndicate, so they can do what they want, and they do what they want, and that's how it that's how it grows and thrives. It needs that nitrous boost to the heart to swell more. And it can't generally have, once it's so big, it's kind of like a person who's probably might have taken too many steroids. Once he's so big, he might have already went too far and caused too much damage. You might as well just go bigger by the day. And you have that happening. Pretty much you're in those times. It's too big to contain itself, but it's too big to ever quit as well, because its ability to like grow that big seems to hinder its ability to think in large dimensions like that. But their leaders know better, so they run from empire to empire. You know, of course, they've staged this so Israel's the next empire. And they've staged it for U.S. to fall, but they comfort the U.S. in its fall. They comfort Germany in its fall. They comfort U.K. in its fall. They comfort Ukraine or Khazaria in its fall. Possibly one could call that comforting as well. Just different methods they use it. But they really do comfort the 5 empires. I guess I just went beyond. Like, that was part of like a bigger empire, but I didn't actually look into that one. So, I mean, at one point you just see the same thing over and over and you realize that you're looking at a pattern. You can't look beyond that. So they're just teaching you to hate opiates. They're teaching you it's more part of the Arab hate, actually, because it's all about that land and its resources. In the UK, it's legal, from what I hear, to get some codeine on the street, from not on the street, but from the chemist at the corner, which I believe to Americans that just means your local pharmacy, like. And I think when they were saying that, it was like over the counter or something. So I don't know why they even call it a chemist. It's just a European thing, I guess. Maybe they still have pharmacies. These big places that we call pharmacies today, we call them stores in America because they're stores with pharmacies inside. But I guess back in the day, it was just the pharmacy had aspirin, right? Stuff like that. So they just want you to hate these people. They want you. They're not talking about the information too, and not all levels of this drug passes you out on the street. Like high unmonitored dosages of this stuff will do this. Just like if you had high unmonitored doses of alcohol, they literally made Everclear illegal in this city, probably because it burns your throat. But that is kind of like, I didn't care about that at the time, did I? That moonshine and stuff might be causing pain for like slight pain for a reason, but you never know. But so they don't have super high content alcohol everywhere. Like here you have to fill a form. Like I bought some of these for botanical extracts and never really ended up using them, but I guess a lot of my tools I don't end up using. But it's super high potency and they don't know what they're dealing with generally, and they're actually causing the deaths of these people by doing this. By being anti-opiate, you're causing the deaths of Tom Petty. Tom Petty died from fentanyl, and the only reason you would be on fentanyl, dude, I'm being stalked. What the fuck? The only reason I'm talking on fentanyl is oh man, hold on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Fucking, when people get weird, I kind of start to think about other shit. So, let me get back on track. Sorry that fucking happened, but I don't want to not finish this. So, the fentanyl is just really high dose of this stuff. It's like really concentrated, and that's what's killing most people. And lack of education. If they could be taught better, there's probably better ways to manage this stuff. But the doctors, of course, don't know anything. They don't take any of the drugs they sell, so they don't know what they're talking about. They never do. They're just telling you the favorite part of the brochure they read. The brochure has bad side effects listed in the back. There could be a doctor who reads that and is like, wow, that looks like bad medicine. We won't prescribe that for you. And there is. But the government wants it illegal so they can sell it and make high profits off of it. And a lot of money has been funneled through that stuff in this government system. The FDA, the DEA, the FBI, your local police department, they're all in together on this shit. It's a big scam. They know what goes on. I wouldn't even doubt they associate with the aliens who control the earth, because it takes crooked people to enter situations like that, generally. Like, someone like me doesn't want to be involved in something like this. It's not my thing to want to be on edge and fucking want to control people. But when that attracts people who have issues, then eventually someone like me has to come in and like say, no, put the candy down. You didn't pay for that. But they get scared of people like that. Everyone does. I noticed that everyone is scared of people like that. And then it makes me feel that the empire knows everything. It makes me feel like the dumb one who didn't know before. I didn't used to associate with general populations, so I don't know what they say, right? I was on the internet before everyone was, but I still ran small groups even before that. So, and I moved around a lot too, so I didn't really always have time to interact for extended periods, because I'd be moving in like 7-9 months. Anyways. But it seems like many people want this, and it's like, fuck. Hell, I'm living on half-paved roads right now because I benefit from it, right? Kind of. Maybe I'd live somewhere else if I didn't have to pay so much money to doctors and stuff like that, right? Probably would be, right? I'd have a bit of saved money. Hell, I just had to spend so much time replacing devices eventually because they make them scammy. And they destroy the tech market, and they allow like fraud, scamming stuff to happen. It all kind of does affect me at one point. There's no real regulations on anything unless there's a profit one way or the other for them to deal with that. It's not really based on like science. Like science is like, it's like a government what's up, dog? Oh. It's like a government organization, it's like another political party. Dog had to stop over there. You should see this one video I have of some owner with its dog. Anyways. Yeah, so it's all corrupt. It's all like corrupt and controlled. I bet it seems to be, and it's just like a scam. That's how the empires ran, though. They want you to hate each other. You know, he's an alcoholic. He's a pothead. He's a junkie. He's a pillhead. Like, uh, and like, yeah, some people probably are fucked up from whatever they choose, but you find a lot of people on the streets. Like, there in America, there is help. There is places that will help you out. Like, generally, maybe these people are good enough they don't ever get caught up in the system that will pick you up if you fall. Like, there's a lot of propaganda saying that doesn't exist. I find it odd no one ever counters that, because it would benefit Republicans to counter that. In many ways, it would benefit them. But they don't say that, even though it seems to be available. Yeah, so many people are dying. Tom Petty and a few other stars, little Peep. And it's most likely they died because they were taking high levels of an uncontrolled substance. And naturally, I guess it's kind of strong, but you could easily dose stuff like that out in safer levels. And unless Tom Petty was trying to die, he probably wasn't trying to kill himself with fent. It's not like when you use this stuff, you like think you should keep using it. Like, you can use it like lightly to the point where you don't pass out. I would think most people want that to happen. But when you take this stuff they force into the street that's really tiny because it's so expensive, when you take that stuff, you don't really know what you're taking, and it can be super strong. I'm not even necessarily saying that should be illegal, but I'm just saying that kids probably wouldn't be using that stuff if, I don't think he was a kid, he was probably an adult. If there was a better option, they probably wouldn't, because the other stuff is literally measured for a reason. And that stuff is weird. Now, I believe that could be obtained legally, but probably not in most cases, I wouldn't think.